guys, Dr. Haley Odell here again. We just did a Facebook Live video talking a little bit about plantar fasciitis, the risk factors associated with plantar fasciitis, and then some of the treatment options that we go through during physical therapy to help get rid of your plantar fasciitis. So I just want to take a couple minutes and talk about a couple of those things. First things first, we want to make sure that soft tissue is good and mobile and allows for good joint range of motion and activation. So I was going to show you a couple of things. You have a little trigger point ball. You can use a tennis ball at home. If you're brave enough, you can use a baseball. It's just a little harder as far as the soft tissue mobilization goes. But any kind of ball that you have, great for mobilizations. You can work into some mobilizations of the bottom of the foot, which I know if you search plantar fasciitis on the internet, it's probably going to be one of the first things that it pulls up. A lot of people use a tennis ball or a trigger point ball and work into that arch of the foot, just kind of mobilizing, bringing some blood flow into that area. That's a great one that you can work on while you're watching TV, eating dinner, something like that, as long as it's not super irritating to the tissue. You can use that same ball. Sometimes I'll have some of my patients do some mobilizations to the calf complex, just with the trigger point ball. So that ball is going to go directly underneath your calf. You can work on doing a little bit of rolling back and forth here, just with that ball into some of the tight, tender spots. You can do a little bit of an active release and work on pointing and flexing the toe. So we call it kind of pumping the gas pedal as you find some of those sore spots. Find another sore spot. Same thing. You can do a little active release there just to get that soft tissue moving just a little bit as far as those trigger points go. A lot of people tend to have foam rollers at home as well. So what we can do with a foam roller, you can also work on that soft tissue around the back sides of the legs. You can start, if you want to, up into the glutes and the hamstrings. And a lot of times what I like to do, kind of get seated in a good position. I like to cross my legs. That way we can put a little bit more force through different areas. Basically what you're going to do, raise the butt from the ground. We're going to kind of use our hands to work up and down those hamstrings just a little bit. So all the way up kind of towards the glutes. You can kind of work all the way down towards the knee. You can work into the calves with the foam roller as well. Same thing, I like to cross the leg. If I'm going to do the right leg, I like to put that on the bottom. That way most of that force is coming through there. And then same thing. You can kind of use the hips to do a little bit of rolling to the bottom part of the calf. You can do a little bit of rotation, get a little bit more on the outside part of that calf and some of those muscles of the lower leg. If you find a nice tight spot, you can do a little bit of rolling in small areas, all the way down through the Achilles in that area where the attachment is. So great for soft tissue mobility. You can also work on different types of stretching. So one of the risk factors we talked about earlier was decreased dorsiflexion range of motion. So if we want to improve our dorsiflexion range of motion, a couple different exercises we can do. We can get into a kneeling position, kind of like you see here. What we're going to work on from that position is put a little pressure through the front of the leg. We're going to lean forward onto that front ankle. I'll do it for the side for you. As we lean forward onto the front ankle, you want to make sure the heel's staying good and on the ground. You get a nice little stretch into the back of the ankle complex. So you can work on a little bit of a hold as you go down and in. And work in mobility. What I tend to tell people is your tissue doesn't run in just one direction in one area of the body. It kind of spreads out. We've got a lot of fascia that runs in different directions. So what I usually tell people, take the knee. You can go over that pinky toe and angle out just a little bit. You can aim over towards kind of right down the middle towards the second toe. And then you can aim that knee inward just a little bit and aim your force through the big toe. So you can kind of mobilize in a couple different directions, just working on range of motion into that dorsiflexion type of position. If you're still working on dorsiflexion range of motion, what you can do, we can add a weight into a weighted squat position. So we call it a goblet squat. Basically what you would do, I didn't bring a weight with me today, but if you had a weight, we would hold it at the chest. Everything stays close to the body, that way you protect your core. But weight would hold close to the body, and we'll go down into a deep squat under load. And what you can do there, you can working kind of side to side, working on keeping that heel down, just so we kind of get some mobility going through that foot and ankle complex there. So squat's also great for lower extremity strength training, which is super important for prevention of plantar fasciitis. So working on ankle dorsiflexion range of motion, super important. That was our second fact there. We can also work on strength and stabilization of the ankle. What we're going to do is work our way up the chain. All of those things that prevent going into that pronated position, which has to do with some of the hip muscles. So what we're going to do now, I'll show you the progression for doing some heel raises. So first progression that we'll do for heel raises is going to be, you're going to use both legs to raise and lower. So we'll come up on the toes and come back down. Up on the toes and come back down. You're using both feet to kind of propel the body, right? Progression for that, we're going to do up with both feet. You're going to go lift foot and you're going to go down with one foot. So up with two, switch that weight over, down with the one. So you're up with two, shift that weight over, down with the one. Next progression from that's going to be a single limb heel raise. So we'll do one foot up, we'll work on up and down with control just with that single limb. And then from there, your progression would be add to a step. So if you have a step in your home, if you've got a small step stool, you can complete that whole progression off of a step. It's going to increase that range of motion that you're going to get with the exercise. It's going to make it a little bit more strenuous. So especially if you don't have a strong history of exercise background, start from the beginning. Don't go straight to the step. You can run the risk of hurting yourself if you don't go appropriately kind of in that stair-step progression. So that's one way you can work on foot and ankle, or strengthening the gastroc complex, which is helpful for prevention. We're also going to talk about some progressions for hip strengthening. One of the ones I usually start my patients with for hip strengthening in general, I call them hip rainbows. So what we're going to do with the hip rainbow, the gluteus medius lays on the outside portion of your hips. That outside portion of the hips is going to keep the hips stable during your gait, during your stance phase of gait. It's also going to help to prevent caving into that pronated position while you're in the stance phase or while you're under load. So super important to get the outsides of the hips. One way I start, we're going to go to the wall. Find a wall or a doorway that you can get kind of up against. You're not going to take yourself all the way to the wall. I'm about a hand's length with my glutes from the wall itself. Bottom leg's going to stay bent. You're going to straighten that top leg out. From here, we're going to take the top leg. You're going to reach back until the heel's in contact with the wall, and from there, you're going to slide up the wall. You shouldn't get to a very big range of motion with this exercise. If you're getting a lot of range of motion, you're probably rotating your hips and you're not isolating well. So we're keep that heel in contact with the wall, squeeze the glutes, couple seconds at the top, up and down. You can start anywhere from 2 to 3 sets of 8 and kind of work your way up into a little higher repetitions, okay? So that's called a hip rainbow. Another great one that you can work on, I'm going to lean on the wall over here. So I give this one quite a bit also to my patients, just for stabilization. We're going to go into leaning on a wall or door facing. You're going to walk the feet out just slightly from the wall. And we're going to go into a little mini wall sit. From here, as far as just starting, you can start with just a wall sit in general. You want to think about kind of screwing the feet into the ground and pressing yourself back and away from the ground. We can start in just a little bit of a wall sit. Progression for that one, we're going to start in wall sit, and then we're going to go into an alternating knee out position. So as one moves, one stabilizes. You're going to squeeze the butt, open the hips. You can also do this under tension or under load if you have a resistance band at home. And then the exercise can also be performed, same position, up on the toes. So if you raise up on the toes, as you're in the wall sit position, and then you can work on alternating the leg positions out. So, good for lower extremity strength, good for putting some proprioception through the feet, the knees, and the hips all kind of at one time. So, that's the wall sit. We can do the alternating abductions as we do that. We can also do, as far as progression goes, one of the harder exercises that we can give people, we do a side plank, which is really going to activate that gluteus medius. You can start with, as far as side plank goes, we're going to start with the knees bent. Your goal is going to be shift those hips forward, so that way your hips, knees, shoulders are all in good alignment. From there, you're going to raise the hips from the floor. So you can start with just a static hold here. Maybe start with 30 seconds or so, 15 to 30 seconds, and then progress your way up from there. Our progression from that position is going to be a side plank with a clamshell. So we'll come up into that side plank, and then we're going to work on opening that top hip. Again, pay notice to how much rotation you're getting through the hips. You should stay solid here and work through that lower leg. Progression from that is going to be a hip abduction in the side plank. So we're going to straighten that top leg out. And again, everything should be in good alignment. Raise the hips. You're going to go into a leg raise from here. And then you can work your way into, both legs are going to be straight up into that side plank, and then up into the abductions, into that side plank, as things get a lot easier. So those are just a couple of ways that you can work through, kind of starting from the bottom down. Soft tissue to the feet, soft tissue to the gastroc complex. We can work into the hamstrings just a little bit, and then we work on strengthening through the ankle complex, some squats and wall sits for strengthening through the quads and the knees, and then good glute stabilization, so that way we kind of support from the trunk all the way down. That's all I've got for today. If anybody has any questions, if you would like some input on progressions or kind of where you stand, give us a call. Otherwise, hope you have a great day.